Hey, Kyle. Hi, Tammy. How are you all doing?
Good morning. So far,
Good,
so good.
All right. Tammy, how you doing?
good. I wanted to let you know I have a meeting with Allie on Thursday.
Oh, all right. Um, that I think you'll find her, pretty easy to deal with. And one of the things that she'll talk about is, how you engage the system. And the first level in the recommended way is through kind of a dedicated portal. So if you, for example, you get an order and you want to use that system, you'll log in and do all the scheduling and all that kind of stuff, on their website or whatever it's called.
Okay.
As you, if it becomes part and parcel of what you do, then you can connect it to your website through what's called an API.
Yeah.
And then it becomes integrated with your system, just like anything else. So
That's cool. That's cool.
yeah. The other thing to know is, so those of you who come from the corporate world, like myself and Kai, maybe Ruth, maybe others, big corporations tend to have silos. So people will be running a program. Let's just use this Walmart Go Local as an example. So Allie is running that program for Walmart, and she's got a team of people that are dedicated to this, this particular thing, Go Local. But I want to just point out that there actually are a whole number of other delivery services that Walmart offers. It's just she is going to move slowly to recommend them because they're outside her bailiwick. But
Okay.
just know that literally anything you can possibly imagine from a logistics perspective, the answer is Walmart can do it. There isn't anything, including airplanes, boats, couches, it's crazy. So just keep in mind that this is just kind of a beachhead, and the idea would be to have access to that whole system, which would include, for example, delivering to your local Walmart and then them distributing it from there, which is something that they do.
Cool. I'm excited. I appreciate the connection.
Yeah, and let me know,
Okay.
how it goes, and if you run into anything, hard or weird or whatever.
Okay.
Just
Will
so
do.
you also, so you know, this program has been out for about, I think, 9 months or so, and the way they started was making deals with Home Depot and Lowe's and other big operations like that. So so this effort to engage with independent businesses is very new, and this is what Allie job it is to get companies like all of us into that system. So
I love it. I love it.
all right. Hey, Sana. Hey, Ruth. How are you? Grant, you alive back there, wherever you are?
Yeah, can you make me co-host?
I tried to. Let me try again here. I may have spaced out and forgot. Let's see. It says make host or rename. Are you co-host?
Yep, we're good. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought I did that. Okay. Today we're going to hear from a person that many of you are familiar with. Mark Cuban is larger than life character out of Dallas. He's one of the guys on Shark Tank. He's owner of the Dallas NBA team, and God knows what else. He's a multi-billionaire. But I think he does a really good job, particularly with bootstrapped entrepreneurs. He's not really a venture capital kind of guy. He's a little bit broader, I think, a lot broader compared to most of these folks who only understand that one model, that one venture capital model. And incidentally, if any of you, if it would be helpful, we could do a class on kind of terms of venture capital. If any of you want to do that, we could, can tell you kind of how all that works. So if there is interest in that, just let me know.
I
And,
love that. I have no idea about that side of things, so I would love to get whatever information I could.
yeah, I'll have to work on that. The best thing to kind of keep in mind about all that stuff, without in any of the details, is venture capital needs, because of the way their business model works, they need you to grow at least 10x and preferably 100x or even 1,000x. And you'll understand when you see how the math works and how they get their money out. Really is one of the number one questions they have. Yes, it's hard to find good deals and get the money in, but it's even harder to get your money out. And venture capital, as in a general rule of thumb, has a 10-year horizon on their deals. So that's something to keep in mind, but I will give some thought as to how we can do that. So let's jump into a couple of things that Mark Cuban has to say, and then we can talk about it. So, okay. We'll share that. Okay.
All these keys to success, etc. What would you say is the number one reason why people fail? Not necessarily why they make it, the complete opposite.
Right, lack of brains, lack of effort.
Lack of brains, lack of effort.
Yeah, they don't do the work. They don't learn, when you walk in the room, when you start a business and you start to talk about somebody, you're never in a vacuum with no competition, unless you're just extremely lucky. And if there's going to be competition, that means somebody else knows your business as well as you do when you get started. And if you walk into a competitive environment and they still know more about the business than you do and more about your customers, you're going to lose. But most people don't consider that. They don't do the work. They don't learn more about their industry. They don't know even about their business. And so you've got to put in the effort to know more about your industry than anybody else. And that's the brains part, and that's the effort part as well. Because look, if you're competing with me, you better know what you're doing, otherwise I'm gonna kick your ass, and you're not gonna outwork me. And so, the combination is usually what kills businesses early on more than anything. Alluding to it earlier about entrepreneurs being born or built, and I think I knew I was wired to be excited about business. How or why, I don't know, but and there's certain guys that have the genetics to jump out of the gym, right? There's certain guys, that when they golf, they have the muscle memory and the discipline. Dirk Nowitzki may not be the most talented guy in the NBA, but his discipline and his focus to do what's necessary to be successful, he's willing to do, and combine it with being 7 feet tall and being skilled, it makes him an amazing basketball player. So it's understanding what your skill set is, finding the right place to use those skills, and then going for it. Will that make you 250 grand? It depends if you pick the right industry. But whatever industry you pick, if you outwork everybody, if you try to be a little smarter than everybody, if you try to be a better salesperson than everybody, if you try to be better prepared than everybody, you've got your best chance. Because if you don't do it and somebody else does, I have the saying, work like someone's trying to take it all away from you. I actually work like someone's spending 24 hours, working 24 hours to take it all away from you. And that's kind of the way I look at it. I started my first business when I was 12. I was buying and selling baseball cards, buying and selling stamps. Anything I could do to make money, I was hustling and trying to do. So I was into business, but I not so much where it was all my friends were into it with me, so they wouldn't know.
Baseball cards.
Yeah, baseball cards, you name it. I grew up in Pittsburgh. And so I would, probably even less than 12 years old, I would go out and buy a bunch of baseball cards that I collected, and I would package, I would say, okay, you're guaranteed to have a Pittsburgh Pirate in this package, and I would charge 3 times as much, and I'd set up on this park bench down in the park down in Scott Township where I grew up, and I'd have these little sales. And it was great. I made money, and it was, and I learned as much about business when I was 9, 10, and 12 as I learned any other time.
Let's transition to a different subject with college. You went to IU,
Yep.
right? Now you got a lot of people that say, forget about school, drop out of school.
They're idiots.
So you think they're idiots.
Idiots.
Tell me why.
If you're going to have and run a business, if you don't understand accounting, you're already behind the 8 ball.
Can't you hire a guy that knows how to
But
run
then
accounting?
they still have to communicate to you. your accountant might tell you you're profitable, but your cash is going down, not understanding a breakdown. And when you don't,
Do you think you need college to learn that?
yeah, I think you do, right? Because it may not, for some people, look, if you're so self-motivated that you can take an online course in accounting and teach yourself everything, you're way ahead of the game anyways. But most people aren't. I don't care if you go to a community college and take accounting and spend $99 for the class. Just, spending the money forces you to be more obligated to do it. But accounting, finance, lesser extent marketing, sales if the school offers that, these are all that's the language of business. And so while it's possible to teach yourself these things, and while it's possible to hire them, when you're starting your own company, you don't want to have to spend money hiring an accountant. Well, let me tell you that if you've gone through all these classes, you probably don't have to hire a lawyer to incorporate, right? You can probably figure out yourself. And so your cost of opening up a business drops. But even more important than all that, that's the blocking and tackling. That's the language of business. The thing I learned at Indiana that was more important than anything else, I learned how to learn. And learning became far more important to me, because the one certainty in business is that it's always going to be changing. If you're not always learning, to this minute, if I'm not continuously learning, if I'm not just absorbing as much as I can absorb, someone else is going to kick my ass, right? So you talk about paranoia. The greatest source of your paranoia should be knowledge. If someone else knows more than you do, and if you're not learning, if you don't know how to learn, if you don't have a thirst for learning and acquiring information, you're SOL.
So do you think, like, let's just say if we put 10 guys here, you interview them, okay? You could, within a 5-10 minute interview, say, this dude's not gonna make it as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, I can typically tell, right? I can tell but by their passion, I can tell by their focus, I can tell by their preparation. There's a whole realm of things in any business. Here's the business you're in, and here's 1,000 things that influence whether or not you're gonna be successful. Through my experience in businesses, I can put myself in his position and say, okay, here are 900 of the 1,000 things he has to be aware of, and then go through and ask. And by how many of those or her issues they've been able to address already, that kind of gives me a sense of how hard they're willing to work. And I can tell by the questions they ask me. So all I have to do is say, okay, what do you want to know? And when they start saying, what should I do?
They ask you.
Yeah, and that's fine, right? And I want them to ask questions, but people like to say, the only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask, and that's not right? Because the questions you ask tell whoever more about you than anything else you do. Because in particular, it tells me about your preparation. If you ask me questions about just basic things that you should have known and you should have down to a science, that's going to disqualify you almost more than anything.
Do you think there needs to be a healthy level of paranoia?
Oh, absolutely.
There needs to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I always say, for every one of my businesses, I say, what would I do to kick my own ass? You're right. So whatever business you have, there's somebody trying to put you out of business. There's somebody trying to take a bite out of your business. And it's better for you to figure out how they're going to do it rather than they do it. And so, yeah, that's being paranoid. And so you have to be paranoid. You have to anticipate other people's next moves, and you can't ever, downplay the competition. I was at a business plan competition this morning at a college, and they were kind of being dismissive of the competition. And so you can't ever do that. They're out there trying to take you down, and they're not just going to sit still. And if you're good, really, really good, you're going to inspire them to work even harder, faster, better. And so you have to be, very self-aware of what you're good at and what other people are good at. And, a healthy dose of paranoia makes a big difference, is very helpful.
How does one entrepreneur increase the speed in areas that they can increase? There's certain things you can't control.
Speed in what way?
Speed of growing your business.
All right.
So how fast can I grow?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. You've got to know your own skill set, right? And you've got to know how that fits within your company's life cycle. Some companies are slow grind. And you just have to understand that, and you've just got to bide your time until it starts to click, and then grow with it quickly. If you're trying to release a product that needs to be ubiquitous, you've got to go as fast as you can, and then
release a product, like a launch.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who will say, perfection is the enemy of profitability, right? And that doesn't mean you have to wait till it's a perfect product. It really just depends on what the product is. It a barbershop, right? Is it an app? Is it a service? Is it a product? But the key is looking for the low hanging fruit. What customers are willing to write you a check or commit to it, so that they're willing to integrate it into their daily lives or integrate it into their daily business. And so getting a commitment either through time or revenue is typically what I look for. And so if I can get a commitment, then I'm going to be able to learn. I'm going to see how they use it. Do they sustain usage? And then once I get the next one, hopefully it came a little bit faster than the first one. Then I can ask for referrals, and then the next one, and I just try to ramp it up. When I bought the Mavs, we had no season ticket holder base. And so literally it was a matter of just putting a list of former season ticket holders in a white pages back then, on my desk next to my phone and making phone calls.
You.
Yeah, me. Yeah, because if I'm not going to do it, how can I
That's
expect someone else to
amazing
do
to
it,
me.
right? So just get on the phone. Hey, this is Mark Cuban. I'm the new owner of the Dallas Mavericks.
Unbelievable.
I'd like to invite you back for a game.
Unbelievable.
It's not though. This is my
But
business.
you can't get regular sales guys or something to make those calls once they get to a quarter. You're a guy that's a billionaire. You're making those
Well,
calls.
but that's all, and that's fine and good, right? Because everybody's got their own goals, right? But still, I didn't want anybody at the Mavs to be able to say, well, he's not willing to do the work, right? There's, if I walk around, I'm picking up all the papers. I'm not saying go get that picked up. I'm like, okay, that's trash. I'm picking it up. But in terms of speed of growth, it's really, you got to get that first customer first. And then when you get that first, what did you learn? Reiterate, get that next customer. And then hopefully as you learn more and more through the process, then the next one comes by even faster.
Okay, so we got one more to look at. Any reactions here? One thing that I don't, oh, go ahead, Sana, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say this guy knows obviously what he's talking about. Everything that he said makes sense. I'm just wondering when, and I think I might have asked you this question, Dennis, before. When do you consider, or what, I don't know how to put it. So what's the line between failure and like kind of pushing on to something that, I don't know what I'm saying. So, if you're just, if you have an idea that you're just very persistent about and it's kind of failing, but you're not recognizing that, you know what I'm saying? How far do you take it? Do you fail after your second year, or do you just keep pushing on to it 5 years? And where's the line? I'm sorry, it took me like so long to put that into words.
This will probably irritate you, but this is my answer. When the Vikings used to invade a place like England or somewhere else, the very first thing they would do when they landed is they would burn their boat. And the reason for that was they ain't going home unless they win. So that's something that I've always thought of, when someone says I'm committed, and, so, there's no one answer to your question. It really depends on you. I have seen entrepreneurs and people who, from my perspective, really aren't doing that much, but from their perspective, they're doing what they love, or they're doing what they want to do. And so the measure of success is really the answer, Sana. What is it? Is it a certain amount of revenues, certain number of employees, what, all of the different metrics that people have? This all comes back to why are you doing it? What is your reason? And, Mark Cuban, I don't know how much you know about him, but he's a lot like a regular guy compared to some of these billionaires. At least he comes across as somebody you might know or have met somewhere along the line. He went to a state school. He's not an Ivy Leaguer guy. He's not a brainwave tech type guy. And I find it very interesting that despite his so-called success, he's everywhere. He's on Shark Tank, he's on interviews, so obviously his definition of success is, one of them is to be in position to help others and to influence others. So the answer to your question with all this rambling, to me, it really is up to you. What is your definition of success? Why are you doing it? What is the thing that you're trying to do? And hopefully you're smart enough to know when you reach that, right? Or you're on your way. And if you're not on your way, or it's not congruent with your why, then you'll stop doing it and do something else. I mean, that's how it strikes me anyway. Anyone
Yeah.
else?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would like to interject, Sonnet. I don't think failing is the word. I don't think you met the success level you were expecting yet, but I don't think you failed. You have created an extraordinary product. You're an amazing person with so many talents. So there's no failure in any of this possibility. You just haven't quite got to the level of success that you were looking for or hope to have achieved at this point in time. So, but I perfectly agree with everything Dennis said as well. But yeah, no, remove that negativity, remove the failure. You're just not where you want to be yet. You're do a great job. Thank you.
I
Burn your boat.
appreciate that,
Burn your
Sean.
boat. Sink that son of a bitch.
Hey, I did when I quit my job. I did.
It's a start. You threw
That was
the
my
anchor.
fault.
Yeah, now you got to burn the boat. Well, I think one other comment I want to make before we go to the next video. I don't really share Mark Cuban's perspective about paranoia. I think that you know, when you're dealing with like his very first company was called broadcast.com. It was bought by YouTube long time ago, like 1990 something. You know, that was a company that was competing literally on a global basis. You know, I don't know if all of you can say, you know, I'm competing, you know, everywhere, and maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But I think this whole idea of paranoia, I think it really depends on product category. A lot of tech products or tech services are really winner take all, right? So, you know, you have to win it all for people to use your technology. There's not much room for, you know, lesser places, but I don't think that's true necessarily with all business categories. Ruth, you want to go ahead? I can't find I saw that you raised your hand. That's as far as I got.
No worries. I would just wanted to respond to Sana there. And guys, this is personal, and if it's too much, just tell me. But I needed to share with you how I came to grips with what I viewed success. And it was a hard lesson. My husband died suddenly in April of 2018, and he was my rock. He was part of the business. I was the creative, whatever. And he really was very, very pragmatic, very focused. And we had all these plans for what we were going to do. He had just retired from his corporate world. I was getting ready to retire from my corporate world. And the bottom fell out of my world, literally. And I had to regroup and realize that I viewed success differently, and that I had to look at my personal path for success, and I had to swim in my own lane. And this is where I kind of disagree with Mark Cuban, in that I get what he's saying, but if I looked at every jam company out there, I just quit.
Yeah.
I had to look at what I viewed as my success, and literally the why that I was getting out of it, and that what I do is a whole lot more than the revenue. And you know, just I encourage you to, you know, just look at the whole picture of what you're doing, and, you know, if you still love it, and, you know, just go from there. But it was a hard wake up call for me to get there.
Yeah.
Thanks
Well,
for sharing that, Ruth. And I'm so sorry for your loss.
yeah, that sucks. No question about it. Sorry about that.
Well, you know, there's a happy side. I'm engaged and I'm getting married next month. So,
Yay!
Congratulations.
and he loves the business. So,
Oh, fantastic.
yeah. So anyway, yes, but I appreciate it, guys. But I just needed to share that was the deal.
Well, you know, I think that the process you went through, and somewhat forced, if you will, when your husband passed away, in terms of how you guys divided labor, who did what, that type of thing. But what you just described, at least from my perspective, is, really getting in touch with your why. Why are you doing this? As you said, if you look at every GM company and go, oh my God, I don't have a chance. But you looked at what you were doing and you made decisions to go forward. And, external people could say, oh, that was a failure at that point. But see, this is where I disagree with Mark Cuban also. It's really about you and your why and your vision. And, does what you're doing, make you happy to get up every day? Or is it, like a slog, like you remember that character from Greek mythology, Sisyphus, the poor bastard had to push a rock all the way up the hill. And right when he got to the top of the hill, the rock would tumble back down. So he was sentenced for a lifetime of pushing that rock up the hill and never reaching the top. So let's take a look at one other quick Mark Cuban thing. Let me see if I can figure that, and hopefully we'll find this equally as helpful.
Uh-huh.
You grew up in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Your father ran an auto upholstery.
We didn't run it, he worked there.
He worked there, okay. So what was that like, Mark, and how did that inspire you?
I mean, my dad busted his ass. I mean, he worked six days a week, left at 7:30 in the morning, got back at 6 or 7 o'clock, lost his eye in an accident doing upholstery. He had a staple break when he was putting some covering on a car seat. It was a middle class upbringing. My mom did odd jobs. They just wanted something better. I mean, my grandparents came over from Russia, and my dad was the first generation. My uncles were the first generation Americans, like my mom too. And like every child of immigrants, they wanted better for their kids.
It's funny. I mean, a lot of people grow up that way, right? But not many people end up like you. So what do you think that's the result of?
I think, everybody's got something that they're good at, and the hard part is just finding it. And I found out early that I was a good salesperson, that I really liked business. Like I like sports. I mean, I read everything I possibly could, played sports as much as I could, just wasn't as good as I wanted to be. And business was the same way. I mean, as long as I could remember, I was buying and selling baseball cards, garbage bags, whatever I could find, stamps to collectors. But I was also reading everything I possibly could about business. And, I was that unusual kid that I'd rather read about Ted Turner than go to the movies. And so I think that created a foundation. And my parents didn't always, my dad used to always say, I don't understand what you're doing, but I'm glad you're doing it. And so I had my ups and downs along the way, of course. But I just think that I just put in the time and was fortunate enough to really get excited about business, and that paid off benefits over the long haul.
I mean, you almost have to have that drive. Like, in other words, you can't fake it. You can't pretend that you want to read about Ted Turner and, okay, I'll skip one movie.
Well,
it has to be in your soul.
Yeah, I mean, you can fake it till you make it in a lot of areas,
Yeah.
particularly if you're working for somebody else. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be great at something, you've got to make the effort to be great at something. Whether it's sports, whether it's physics, math, science, business, whatever it may be, it's not just a natural skill. You've got to learn, and particularly if you're in the technology industry, because it changes every day. When I got started, after I was a bartender when I first came to Dallas, got into the PC industry, got fired, started my own company, but I learned early on that there was always something new, and most people didn't put in the time to learn it. It's like now with artificial intelligence. Lots of people talk about artificial intelligence. Lots of people talk about machine learning and neural networks. Not a lot of people are putting in the time to take classes or do the tutorials or to learn how to apply it to business, and that's what it takes. And that's just something I've always enjoyed, so I've been fortunate at that.
Now, wait a minute. Are you doing that with AI right
Yeah, absolutely.
now? What are you doing?
Oh, I've been on Amazon doing the machine learning tutorials. Right now, I'm going through. I've taken Python online classes.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go in my bathroom, there's a machine learning for dummies book. I just started JavaScript neural networks. There's a little tutorial where they've got most of the library, brain.js and all the libraries. And it's not, if you have a background in programming, it's not hard. But I'm not trying to be great at that. but I want to understand it. So I understand all the, you know, the nuanced elements of it and how it works so that I have an advantage.
But where would that take you? Like with your businesses here or the Mavericks or you don't
Oh,
even
everywhere.
know?
It takes me everywhere, right? I mean, there's nothing that AI won't impact. As big as having been around a while, I saw the impact of PCs, then I saw the impact of local area networks, then I saw the impact of wide area networks, then I saw the impact of the internet, then I saw the impact of mobile, then I saw the impact of wireless. You know, now I'm seeing the impact of artificial intelligence, and it dwarfs any of those things. And if I don't understand how to apply it to my businesses, I mean, I remember selling PCs and software and walking in saying, you don't need to use that pen and paper on a notepad or a ledger pad. Now we're going to give you a spreadsheet. And by the way, here's a spreadsheet that costs $495, and I had to pay to go get trained on how to sell it, which is crazy now when you think about it. But then we said, okay, now you can play what if. Then we said you can connect these PCs. Unless I understood the technology, how was I going to explain it? How was I going to understand it? Unless I understand it now, how am I going to invest in it? You know, then I got to go trust somebody who says, oh yeah, I know AI, and maybe they do, maybe they don't. And it's really easy just to okay, say you figure it out. That's just not my style.
So you're building a base of knowledge, and then you think that at some point it's going to pay dividends in terms
It already
of,
has.
Right?
I mean, if you truly believe AI is going to change everything, how are you going to understand what people are doing to change everything unless you at least have a foundational understanding of it? Now, I'm not going to build a 1,000,000-layer neural network and try to change the world. I'm not going to show you, I'm not going to write a research paper and saying, here's why the lottery ticket approach works, and you can build smaller neural networks with less data and be more, resource efficient. But I can read that stuff and understand that when somebody says, okay, we're building this project and we need this size data set or this size data set, or we need this amount of resources, I can ask questions and understand the answers.
So you grew up in Pittsburgh, went to the University of Indiana for a while, then you said you came here. How have you adopted this city? Why did this become your home, Dallas?
Well, I mean, when I went to IU, I had a bunch of friends that graduated and came down here, and they're like, you got to get your ass down here. The weather's great, the women are beautiful, the economy's good. I said, wait, back up. And I came down, lived 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment until I found my way, and have had a blast and loved it ever since.
So how do you describe yourself, Mark? I mean, I said entrepreneur. Is that how you would describe yourself? What do you do for a living?
I describe myself as a grinder. I just, like we talked about learning, that's a grind, but I love it, and I think I've just learned what I'm good at and learned to focus on those things and try to, utilize those skills to now, not just be an entrepreneur, but probably more often now invest in and help other entrepreneurs.
Okay, so take us through your business interests right now. You have the basketball team, you do stuff for Shark Tank, you have stuff here.
You can go to markcuban.com, I list them all right there.
Right.
And so really, I've got Shark Tank and I've invested in 100+ companies there. We've sold a bunch, so I think I've got 70 that are active now. It follows the normal distribution, probably 10 are struggling, 50 are doing great, and 10 are doing incredible.
Right.
But I think now I've really evolved some of my focus to trying to help disadvantaged entrepreneurs, people who have less opportunity. I just invested with a woman, Arlen Hamilton, who we together created a little $1 million fund where she's going out and finding 10 businesses run by people of color or disadvantaged LGBTQ type communities, and just opening doors, because I think my experience applies to anybody, right? Any entrepreneur, no matter what you're trying to sell. And I also think that it's a great business opportunity simply because the markets that they want to sell to are underserved. There just aren't as many entrepreneurs, so there's more opportunity. And so I think it makes great business sense as well.
But let's go through some of these other things. Starting with Shark Tank. What's Shark Tank like? Is it really a kick the way it looks like it is?
It's great. We start shooting here probably in a couple of weeks, June 12th or 13th, I think it is. And the way it works literally is we show up on set in Sony Studios, and I get there about 8:30 and they put on a little bit of makeup. I throw on my suit, like Kevin, Mr. Wonderful,
Mr.
and
Wonderful.
Lori, they have to get there 2 hours earlier
Oh,
because they need
they
tons
need
of
more
makeup.
work?
They need.
Oh, are
Kevin's
you-
got a lot
I
more
hope you're
land.
listening to that.
Kevin's got a lot more land mass to cover,
There you go.
and Lori's Lori.
Uh-huh.
But in any event, we start shooting at about 9, and they just bring in deal after deal after deal. We know nothing about them. They'll say, this is, Joe and Sally, and this is the name of the business, and they'll walk in and give our pitch. Now, on television, it might take 10 to 14 minutes. In real life, if it's a stupid deal, it might take 20 minutes and then before we're all out.
Right.
And then if it's an intense deal, it could go 90 minutes, 2 hours. And then they have to edit it down. But it's our money, it's all real, we know nothing about them. If we decide to do a deal, then we have the opportunity to do due diligence after the
Right.
fact, because sometimes they'll embellish, it's a polite way to put it. My widget cost $1 to make and we sold 1 million of them, when in reality, their widget cost $10 and they've sold 6.
That happens sometimes?
Yeah, it does happen more often than you'd think. The producers are supposed to ferret that stuff out, but
Yeah.
not a lot, doesn't happen as much as we'd like. So yeah, we'll do due diligence, and about 60% of my deals close.
Right.
The other little thing is, of the deals that present to us, and we'll see in any given season 250 to 300 that are presented, probably 25% of people who pitch us that come in are taped and pitch to us don't even make it on air for
wow.
a variety of reasons.
Yeah. And let me ask you about your entertainment business, the movies and 2920.
I think that's enough from our friend, Mr. Cuban, at this point. But I did find it interesting that he gets in the weeds and studies concepts, to just so he's coherent. And this is something that I have noticed over the years. The whole idea of what work to do, right? What work should you be doing? Are you doing the highest and best use of your time? One of the things with many solo entrepreneurs, you obviously do everything, right? You put the labels on, you pack it, you ship it, you do everything. A lot of people don't fully understand that, right? There's a lot of mythology about being an entrepreneur, but I do think the basic point of really educating yourself and being knowledgeable, particularly about what you're doing, will make you more powerful and will help you. But it's not the be all end all. And I think that this whole idea of Shark Tank or business competitions, I don't know how much any of you all look into that sort of thing, look into different kinds of pitch competitions or whatever, but some people feel those are a big waste of time. I don't know. I'm really have mixed about it. Certain categories of businesses do really well in that kind of format, and others don't. So anyway, anyone want to comment about what you heard? And I have one last thing to show you after that, and then we'll call it a day. Okay. I hear someone talking, but I can't tell who. So, okay, well, I'm gonna show you one other thing that is just, I think, is amazing, and hopefully you will find it that way also. We'll just send a little bit on this, and I posted this in the Facebook group yesterday. I have never seen anything like this. So one of the things that we talk about is, collaborations or partnering with other groups. And sometimes that means somebody that's contiguous to your business, maybe complementary, rarely is it a direct competitor. But in this particular case, this is a farm in upstate New York. And they collaborated with some major fashion brands to create a line of basically work clothing to work on the farm, as best I can tell. And they're, includes $746 sweaters in their case. But it's just such a creative, concept. And I just really bring it up to you all just the idea of maybe thinking outside the box with partnerships. And in this particular case, the farm had really been a farm used by this guy, Dan Colin, who apparently is a well-known artist. And, it's just kind of almost like a little demonstration farm. They had interns every year and, tried to grow their stuff. But he was so well connected that he was able to connect with some of these brands, and they've created this workwear label, as they call it. And so they're working with major fashion houses on a line of clothing, which from my perspective, it's nothing so unusual. It's just, the method of distribution is just very high dollar. Interestingly, though, they've been doing this for a year or so, and now they're starting to look at coming out with like a mass brand that they could put in a Walmart or somewhere else to raise money. But the whole purpose of this brand, this Sky High Farm workwear, is strictly for charitable purposes. It's trying to raise money for the work that they do on this farm. And I just thought it was one of the most creative things I have run across. Would never cross my mind to come out with a line of clothing as a farm, like to this level, and to partner with people like this. So I'm curious what you all think about that and your reaction to it.
I'm with you, Dennis. That was pretty cool that that's way out of the box in my little world. I just can't see putting all that together, but I think it's a great collaboration and something that we should consider, that maybe it's so far off the grid that it's so crazy it may work. Who knows? But honestly, I like that. I like that thinking.
My way of looking at things like this is what's in it for me, right? What's in it for each of you? And a lot of this stuff is really PR, right? Like, I'm not buying a $746 jacket. I don't give a damn what the cause is. It's just not going to happen. However, a front page article in the Wall Street Journal that mentions my business is my kind of good, right? So if you think in terms of, we talked about hijacking the news and we talked about PR, but if you think in terms of some of these little things that can help you gain awareness of who you are and what you're doing, you might be able to throttle this down maybe to your area. Maybe there's I'm making this up, but find a farm nearby, maybe even a farm you work with, and maybe there's some kind of collaboration can be put together that would be publicity worthy. Maybe it's for a certain fund, maybe some percentage of your sales for a period of time go to help something that people care about. But that the whole idea really is this idea of leveraging attention, because really that's what you all need. You need awareness, you need customers finding you, and then your job is to make sure they come back and buy again and so forth. But the front end, the attention thing is really big. And I will make a pitch for some of you have already done this. But collaboration is really easy to do with live streaming. You can have somebody on there with you, right? Some collaborator, and I think we've seen it in some of the stuff done by Craig with the farm out in Winston-Salem that does the live show. I can't think of the name right now. Sorry, but he'll have guests on, and they'll talk, and it might be the potato chip guy, or it might be grass-fed beef guy or whatever. But I do think that the live streaming really lends itself to collaboration and to working together. And it also, if you do it on a consistent basis, it will build your audience. One of the things we've learned from our live streaming that we've done here in this group, some of it was just terrible. I mean, no one showed up, just where is everybody, right? And in other cases, it was pandemonium, like those guys throwing using a crossbow to shoot balloons to see what discount you get. I still never quite get over that. The plastics company from Greenville, just to me was unbelievable. I just hope they don't point the crossbow at me if I go to visit them. But anyway, the point of this, sharing this was just to let you know that there's maybe some really creative things that you could do that might land you, in some sort of media that can help you build awareness for your business. So that's all I have for today. I don't know if anybody wants to comment on any of this. Please do.
Well, I have a tangential but kind of related question, if people don't mind for a second. I'm curious if you all have merchandise and sell it. And I mean stickers, magnets, hats, shirts, mugs, whatever. I did a demo Saturday at a store in Apex that sells North Carolina goods. And if y'all are not there, it's Elk Local Foods. The lady's wonderful, and I'm happy to put you in touch with her. But she was selling t-shirts and, had the other stuff. And people have told me I needed to sell merchandise. And I'm like, really? And I'm just curious if that sweater thing kind of triggered that. And I wondered if y'all do and your thoughts on it.
I actually am talking to a company now to actually do some shirts for me. Starting out, I'm gonna just do for me. So when I do my videos and when I'm out and about, I'm wearing them myself. But I've already actually had customers say, I've shown some of what I wanted to do, and they've said, "Oh, when you do that, I want to get one." So I'm actually going to test that. So when I buy them for myself and I'm wearing them, if I get some feedback of people saying they would want one, then I am going to do it. I think it's a good idea, honestly. I'm looking at like the t-shirts, possibly the hats, because I wear hats all the time when I'm in the kitchen. So for me, I would wear them so it's not going to be wasted if something happened that I bought stuff and it didn't sell. But I'm going to start out buying it for me. And if I get good feedback, yeah, I'm going to add it. I agree.
I would be interested in hearing how that works out for you, Dawn, because I've thought about that too, but I've always wondered how successful would that be. I mean, am I selling egg kits, or am I going to be pushing the merchandise? I mean, so it's always, to me, it goes back to marketing. How am I going to market, and how am I going to get the customers? And I guess it also depends on your customer base. So yeah, I'm very interested in hearing how that works out and how you approach getting it out there, like, how you're going to market it. I actually, so I guess everybody knows my product. It's an egg kit. It's like a little mini breakfast, quick instant breakfast mix type thing. You just mix it in with eggs and cook it. So I launched this little microwave cooker thing like 6 months ago or so. I ordered it from Alibaba, and so it was like really inexpensive for me. And the product already exists out in the market. So I checked Amazon to compare the prices and things like that. So I have it on my website today, and the customers that are currently buying it are my existing customers. And every time I send out like an email blast or do marketing campaign, that's when I do see purchases of that item. So for merchandise too, it just, I guess, depends how am I going to market it.
Okay. Well, there's I'll give you my 2 cents on it. There's no reason why you all can't use a print on demand service. There's no reason to buy inventory and to guess with all this stuff, particularly stuff like t-shirts, hats, coffee mugs, or whatever. So, there's a number of players that are in that space. I'm trying to find this one. I can't remember if it's print. There's the one called Print. Yeah. So Printful, let me share the screen real quick here. So this company happens to be in Charlotte. Okay. So, and they're one of the biggest. There's also something called Printify, and also something called Gooten, Gooten. Some of you might remember we had the CEO of Gooten as a guest speaker. But the way these things work, and this might really be good for you all, because in this case, their locations are all near where you all are. They're warehouses. So the way the system works is you pick your assortment, and then on your website, people click to buy it, but it isn't created until they buy it. And then it's shipped directly to them from the printer. And the one thing about this is it's going to be lesser margin from a gross margin basis if as compared to you buying your own inventory and storing it in your store and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at the net revenue, everyone that's done this tells me this is a real winner unless you're really committed to clothing, right? From a tertiary side type of thing, to have all of this on autopilot and include the logistics of delivery and customer service and all that kind of stuff, this sort of approach is really what almost every major brand is doing. Very few of them do this themselves unless it's their core business. So I just, Printful.com, you can see how all this works. And, like in this case, they have just tens of thousands of products, drinkware, engraved jewelry, posters, stationery, phone cases, yada, yada, yada. Go to the print on demand. So here's just some of it's really unlimited, and you can try different things, but there's no risk to you upfront. And you can pick, like here, for example, they have eco-friendly products. The brands that they use, most of these companies use, include people like Nike and Under Armour and any brand that you can think of. There's no quality loss. You're not just getting, a choice of nothing good. But you can just kind of go through here. This is all their organic stuff. Adidas, just about everything you can think of. But the beauty of it is you don't have to do it all yourself. And for those of you who are already overextended in terms of bandwidth and time, you might seriously consider one of these kind of things. And this is more up Sana's alley because she's technical, but I believe it integrates really well with Shopify in particular, and probably the other platforms as well. I haven't really pursued that, but just looking at the brands in this particular case, pretty much everyone you can think of, Champion, Adidas, etc. Just about every brand that you can think of. And there are a number of players in this space. I like Printful because they're based in Charlotte and their warehouses are all over North Carolina. So your customers will get your stuff really quick, and print on demand also. When you get engaged with them and talk to them, they'll tell you how long a particular item takes to make and ship. Some stuff is really, really fast, even faster than you could do it yourself, particularly with a lot of the t-shirts. Some of the weirder stuff takes a little bit longer, but just remember they're literally printing it on demand. And then they're sending it out. So there can be a time lag for certain categories. But Printful, and I don't know these people, but everyone tells me that they're real good and quality and all that kind of stuff. But so there you go. Printful.com.
That's what I was looking for, Dennis. Thank you.
Yeah,
That kind of changes my perspective a little bit. Thanks.
Yeah, well, when you start, when you figure it out and start doing it, you can come and give a class of how to integrate it with your website.
Maybe I will. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think you'd be great. And I know for a fact they all support Shopify, and my guess is they probably support just about every major platform. Would be my guess. One other last thing about it, and I have spent a lot of time looking at this because it's just an interest area of mine. You don't have to do what everyone else does, right? Like you don't have to do t-shirts and hats. You can do t-shirts and hats, but you also can do some really cool stuff. Like I turned off the sharing, but they've got a tote bag. I can just see that tote bag with your logo on it, being carried all over the place by people. You could even conceivably give some of these away, as a prize or whatever. Again, it's getting awareness, getting people out there carrying your logo around, which is nice. And particularly if you're a food item that people, they could use that bag to go to the store and not get those stupid plastic bags from the grocery store. So it's in keeping with kind of a methodology, but having people carrying your stuff is a good thing, in my view. All right. And
Well,
so we
thank you
come,
guys so
go
much.
ahead,
That was
Ruth.
great. Thank you guys so much. That was wonderful.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I'll stop on this, I promise. But the Cadillac in this business is a company called Gooten, Gooten. Gooten, their CEO is a good friend of mine, and he has been a guest speaker here before. Some of you may remember. But he also told me that, Gooten is overkill for most of your alls. I mean, they do the back end for Nike, for example, and they do the back end for Fanatics, if you've ever heard of that brand. So they're a real big operation, but they also do this kind of stuff, and they have warehouses in 50 countries. So as you go into, if you want to go nuts with this or create your own line of clothing, you can do it. You can do it. I'm going to just show you all one other thing here. And I seem to be, I think I had too much coffee this morning. So let's just see here. So I'll share my screen here, and then I promise I'll let you go. So one of my best friends, who I've known since we're both 11 years old. Actually, he was 12. He's a year older than me and a grade behind me, just to give you an idea of the kind of people I hang around. Anyway, he passed away a year ago, and John Carr was his name, and he was a kind of like a professional rugby player in the sense that he played at the national level. There's all these rugby teams at the national level, and he was always part of those. And he and I were on. We started rugby at James Madison University along with some others. I was just a hanger on. I was not a big rugby guy, but he passed away, and so we set up a fund because one of the things he did over the years, he's very successful financially. He supported the rugby program at JMU just on the QT, didn't tell anybody. He would just put in money for if they had a trip, qualified for some kind of tournament. He was constantly helping them. So one of our goals is to help the rugby people, and try to replace some of his thing. So one of the things I created was an online shop. And this is very much what you guys are talking about. This is stuff that you can buy, and the money all goes to this particular charity. Now, in this case, there is a supplier in the rugby world that does this, right? So this is not somebody, unless you want to do rugby stuff, you probably won't deal with them. But they're called Steamroller Rugby Supply, and just about every organization in the United States that plays rugby uses these guys for this kind of thing. So they made all of these products. They're all print on demand. T-shirts, hats, just all kinds of stuff that people can buy, and and a percentage, whatever the profit is, goes to this fund. But this is exactly how Printful works. Same exact concept. It's just this particular company has a lot of rugby stuff, which this is aimed at rugby people. So it's a little bit different, but I did want to kind of share with you, to me, the company, when they started putting it up, they started putting these jackets up. I said, I don't know about where you live, but it's hot as hell here. Do you have anything for summer? So you got to pay attention to the mix of products that you might, that you might offer. It needs to be seasonally appropriate for wherever you're operating. All right. Well, that's all, folks, for me. Anybody, any closing comments? All right. Well, we'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.